about life-threatening situations occurring
me to how the NSA works, and I didn't know what they were talking about. But they've been collecting data for years. We're talking like decades. And if you ever get a chance to watch the movie Snowden, or actually watch some documentaries about Edward Snowden, he'll lay it out there on what the government's been doing and collecting. The thing that's unusual about what's happening in Standing Rock is that they've been using these technologies that they've been building through police departments across the country, and they're testing them. They're seeing how they work in the wintertime. They're seeing how they work, basically sucking all the data off everyone's phone that they fly over, including the towns of Mandan and Bismarck, because that's what they're flying over to. And all this data is being collected. A lot of our phones have been basically scanned and recorded the actual address of that phone, and they can actually listen in and they can actually see what's going on your phones. Even though we've cleared the phone that we're using today, yesterday they didn't seem to mess with it from our end, but other viewers were saying that they were seeing flickering, things that look like pictures were being taken. Those are the sort of things we want you to pay attention to and report back to us, because we want to expose them. We're not going to hide from them. We're going to continue doing the work that we do. We're going to continue exposing the truth, telling the truth, and we don't want it taken down. So we have to keep on doing it every day. So you have to help us out there.
And also, I think that we can experiment. We can watch the watchers. We can figure out what makes them tick and what ticks them off, right? So one of the things that you and I did, and I would advise you guys to do it, in addition to watching the show very carefully, documenting any of the issues that you see, take a video with a different device. Grab your iPad, grab your other devices that you have, another phone, and videotape the video of this, the live feed, as it's happening, so you can capture those flickers, so you can show how it gets interrupted, so you can note any issues that you have with your phone and send it to us. We will send it through to the people that are investigating and who are going to hold and within the government, because it's our police forces and third parties that they hire to do their dirty work, to do their warrantless searches and surveillance on all of us. And it's not going to be something that we're going to allow quietly. We're going to make sure that we hold these people accountable. The best way to shine the light on bad actors is to expose everything that they're doing so that everyone knows about it. Because otherwise, what we're talking about is just theory. It's just our imagination. It's just tinfoil hat wearing people sitting here talking about a thing we think might be happening. It is happening, and if we document it, we can then hold these people accountable. But the first step is that we have to make sure people are all on the same page. Do we all understand what we're talking about? Have we all figured out how to document it and who to tell? The Electronic Frontier Foundation is one of those places. I talked about it in one of my former shows. So from now on, we're going to document everything that's going on. One of the ways that I did that, especially with people who were doing Facebook live feeds from Standing Rock, was to take my phone and do a live feed of their live feed on my live feed. Okay, so I was putting on 88.1 the live feed of Kevin Gilbert, or the live feed of Dean from Joe to Be Wild, or the live feed of Lastral Indians, and I was playing it on my live feed. You see what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
So, and then if that went down, I used another device, had it ready to go. So I was like, so, You got me? You feel me? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to try and do this. Let's do some testing here and see what happens. Are you guys ready? We're going to play a little game. But also, I want to share with you some of the things that I talked about yesterday. I encourage all of you. I know maybe it's not as fun or as convenient, or it's not your way of interacting with media to listen to the podcast of the show. But even if you don't want to go listen to it, if this is how you get down on a Mexican crossing lines, I'm cool with that. I'm fine with that. But please still share the podcast of the show. I want to be able to broadcast the complete show. I want it to be available to people. And what I said yesterday is important. And I don't have the time today, because new things have happened and I have to talk about them, to be able to share everything that I talked about on yesterday's show. But it is very important. So I'm going to talk about some of these things again because I think that they're that important. And I believe that I'm right, because why did they take down my show? Do you know how many other media stations are in this area? Some of them are also low power stations.
Mm-hmm.
They also have Facebook accounts
Yep.
that they post on. They also have done live feeds. In fact, many of our local media,
Mm-hmm.
many of our local news stations anymore, pay attention to this because you know it's happening in your town too. They're going out there with their phones and doing Facebook Live updates in a shooting situation.
Yeah. Before they're even doing a newscast, they're using Facebook Live. You know, a lot of media is doing that now. So we've not ever seen any of that media have their Facebook Live recordings removed. You know, it's like again, you know, we're waiting for do complaints on the link that just went dead yesterday and was removed. There's been no answer. We've also looked around, and no other station that we know of has had any problems like this before. So it can only come to what we're talking about, which is a censorship of talking about Standing Rock, talking about the water protectors, talking about what's going on in the community, because there's a media blackout. And the mainstream media is complacent in actually working with the government, and they're not reporting the news. They haven't from the very beginning of when this whole encampment started.
We are a federally licensed radio station under the FCC. We are a source of emergency broadcasts for this area.
Mm-hmm.
If there is a life or death situation and the community needs to know, our radio station is wired to, and we pay money for, the emergency broadcast of emergency news and information that could save the lives of people that live in our community. How dare anyone tamper with the information that we are reporting out of our radio station? That is a felony if you tamper with the communications of a federally licensed media station, and we intend to find out who is doing it, because that is not okay for you to do. Keep that in mind. And we're not going to stop talking. We're not going to stop sharing the news. We're not going to stop telling the truth, even if the powers that be don't like it. So, how do you think that's going to go? We'll see. Let's find out. To talk about a little bit of the things that I mentioned on yesterday's show, the odds and ends show, one of the most important things that I wanted you guys to keep in mind in these last 2 days. We have 2 days left in December.
Yep.
2 or 3? 2?
2.
That's it. There's 2 days left. And what that means is that there's only 2 more days left to comment, to let the North Dakota Supreme Court know that you all want out-of-state attorneys to be able to represent water protectors in the state. The media has hardly talked about this. All that they have told you about this, all that they have said, is that there's a bunch of water protectors that have requested that they get public defenders because they can't afford an attorney, and that they need attorneys because there aren't a sufficient number of attorneys covering all of these cases. And we also know that Lad Erickson has put a motion forward to stop water protectors from getting court-appointed public defenders, from being able to use the Indigent Defense Fund.
Which they would qualify for. If a person qualifies for that program, they're supposed to be able to use it. And they're not only wanting to deny that. If they do, they want to charge them. They want to charge the actual defendants the cost.
Every penny. They want to bleed them dry.
Which is, they can't afford an attorney in the first place, and now they have to pay for the attorney. So it's actually against what the whole program is. And that program is there so people are represented in the justice system, because you can't have justice without representation.
Trish says, "Hey, Cindy and Duke from Chatham, Ontario, Canada. My phone has been acting up on certain feeds, and within 3 weeks of watching, my phone had to be repaired."
Oh yeah, wonder what the repair was. Probably wiped it clean and started over.
Hey, listen, we have been trying to share with you how exactly this is manifesting and what ways you can document it and also protect yourself. If you guys want to find out more about that, go to Surveillance Solutions.
Yeah.
Surveillance Solutions, and the show before that was Surveillance State.
Yeah, we did Bullies and Bigots too. Surveillance State. Just go to KPPP-FM.com, go to the updates on Standing Rock, and you'll see our past 3 shows at Surveillance State, and then we did Bullies and Bigots, and then we did Surveillance Solutions. The Surveillance Solutions has a lot of links on it to help you figure out what's going on with your phone. If you have an Android, it's a little bit easier because there's some other software that actually works with the hardware differently than the iOS systems, but check it out. You got to protect yourself, because this is not going to be isolated. This is something that's really ramped up here in North Dakota, and it's happening nationwide. But this is a testing phase, so we need to be prepared for this. So don't come January 20th, all of a sudden your phone's not working right. You can have some solutions now.
So if you missed what I said to you about why this is so important, I ask you very humbly to please go back and listen to at least the part of the show where I explain all of the insurmountable odds that the state of North Dakota is putting in front of water protectors so that they will not have access to counsel, so that they will not be able to have their day in court, so that they will not be given the constitutionally guaranteed due process rights that every person deserves. And if you think about the fact that many of those water protectors, now over 150 of them, are facing felony charges, you have to understand that these folks they're in a position where they seriously are not going to have a fair trial.
Exactly.
They're going to be railroaded. And I also talked about Leonard Peltier. We have seen Indigenous people like Leonard Peltier railroaded by our government, put into prison, and kept there until this very day for no reason whatsoever. And now they're going to try and do this on a massive scale to 570 some people that have been arrested. The people that have misdemeanor charges should have no charges because they did nothing. The people that have felony charges should not have those felony charges. The progression of what I saw, I witnessed this. I interviewed and met the people myself face to face. I saw with my own eyes as I went out to the camp to report to you what was happening over the months from the summer and arresting people. The progression went like this. They started arresting people on misdemeanor charges. And then when that didn't stop people from going out and protecting their water, then they started giving them more heavier
Yeah,
sentences,
trumped up charges. They started
more misdemeanor charges.
Mhm.
It went from just trespassing and a fine, or you'd have to bond out.
Mhm.
Basically, you would go in, and as many of the water protectors became familiar with, they'd have to go in, get their picture taken, get fingerprinted, pay the fine.
Stuck in a dog cage,
No, not stuck in a dog
Oh,
cage.
that came later.
They were just stuck. They just went in. They weren't even arrested. They just went in and paid the money.
Okay.
And it was around $200, and then they left. And that was the routine. That's what was going on. And so when people got used to that, people were even making jokes. Remember, oh my God, Greg Cloud?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Greg Cloud, when he was going to the jail, he was like, so I guess there's a warrant out for my arrest, and I wasn't even there.
Mhm.
And he wasn't. He had video evidence proof that he was nowhere near where they said he was when he was trespassing. And they charged him with criminal trespass.
Mhm.
It wasn't just a trespass where you just go in and you pay the thing and you leave. It was criminal. So they absolutely had no proof, but because he spoke to attorneys and they told him the best thing to do is just go pay the fine, blah, 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 right? So he goes to turn himself in, and they tell him, once they have him in handcuffs, by the way, you can't bond out because there's no bond for you.
Yeah.
You're staying in jail. And yeah, so they kept him. They kept him overnight. They tortured him.
Yeah.
They basically left him in a tiny concrete room where they meet with lawyers, which doesn't have a bed, which doesn't have it's doesn't have water or a toilet or anything, and they left him there for 4 hours, no blanket, freezing cold, in one layer of clothes, your underclothes. Basically, they left him in his underwear in this freezing room. And let me tell you, those rooms are cold. As a translator, as a person that has accompanied many attorneys into jails and prisons in this country, because I have had the privilege of doing that, I don't like sitting in those rooms. They make me claustrophobic. There's no toilet, there's no water, there's nothing in that room but a chair, usually, and a table. So that's what they started to. So that's what they started to do. Even more trumped up charges. Let's not let them bond out. Let's hold them without bond for a misdemeanor so that scares the crap out of them, because that's not supposed to happen. Whatever the F we want with impunity, and no one can stop us, so that they see what we're willing to do to them for no reason whatsoever, and that no one will be able to hold us accountable for what we've done to them. And that's what they started to do. That's when they became a terrorist organization, and they started to try to terrorize people. And the next progression after that was dog cages and sending people as far away from Morton County as they could, to Minot, to Fargo, to Cass County, to Jamestown, to Valley City, to Devil's Lake. They started doing that to try to cause more pain and more harm and inflict more damage on people. They removed people who are tribal members from tribal land, okay? And they took them to another location, forcible removal, for according to the Morton County Sheriff's Department, trespassing on their own tribal land. Okay? And then they took them without a dime, without a coat, without food, without a phone, nothing. Nothing. I saw them deny people medical care. I saw them deny people food, water, taunt them, eat in front of them as they begged for food. They did it on purpose. They did this stuff on purpose. Several people told me that they put their ties on their arms so tightly that when they went to cut the ties off, they had to cut into their hands. Several people told me the same thing because they did this on purpose. And they would tie the ties really tight. And you know what they would tell them? Because several people reported the same weeks apart from each other, from different states, from different parts of the country and the world, who went to different actions, who never met each other. They all reported the same, that the police officers put those ties on their hands so tightly, and then when they begged, when they couldn't feel their hands anymore, when their hands turned numb, when they went blue, and they begged for someone to check on their hands to see if they still had a pulse, to see if their hands could still circulate blood, then they would say, "Sorry, I didn't bring the proper equipment to take these off and put some new ones on. Sorry, we don't have the thing that you can adjust these with or cut these off of your arms with. So you're going to have to sit in a transport vehicle without a seatbelt on for 3.5 hours till you arrive at your location. And then we can adjust those." These are the things that they did. These are things that they did. And and nobody knows about all of that stuff. They told you about the dog kennels. They told you what they did to those folks, but they have been doing more and more and more sick stuff. And now, and believe me, those sentinels, these racist vigilante groups that are popping up, and these racist vigilantes that are going after water protectors, that kind of stuff happening, that doesn't happen in a vacuum. I can't tell you for sure that the police aren't doing that with those vigilantes, working directly with those vigilantes, but I can sure tell you they don't mind. I can tell you they don't mind at all. In fact, like Trump, they see that kind of support as good. They think they're passionate followers of theirs. They like the fact that those people are willing to go out there and commit disgusting deeds. Because I've heard in Morton County's press conferences that he himself, Kyle Kirchmeier, has said that they appreciate all of the support from the people, but they do want to tell those people that are pro-DAPL and pro-police not to make themselves part of the problem. Just don't make yourself part of the problem. Don't make yourself part of the problem. They love it.
Yeah.
They love it. Those guys love that. So let me tell you something. These people in the court system, Lad Erickson, chief among them, is not following the law. These are lawless, criminal actors. These are bad actors that want nothing but to inflict the greatest amount of damage on these water protectors and their allies. And we can't let them do that.
No.
And one of the ways in which they act, these bad actors, is under the cover of darkness, under a silence in a media blackout where nobody talks about this stuff. And guess what's going to happen when they go into the courtroom? Watch for it, because it's already started. Oh, they had to kick out a bunch of water protectors and their allies from the courtroom because they were a fire hazard?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
Yeah, just a couple of weeks ago. They removed them because all of a sudden there was a fire hazard to have a crowd of people in a courtroom, which has chairs and seats and, you know.
They don't want people in there. They also told the people that this was a public proceeding and that they could film it. You know why? Because they're going to continue to violate people's rights, even more so in the courtroom. And you want to know quién es más prepotente? Who is more antagonistic? The cops or the lawyers, the prosecutor and the judge? Well, let me tell you, it has no accountability. They are the tip of the iceberg compared to a prosecutor who has literally all of the leeway. He has complete prosecutorial discretion to bring people up on any and all charges, to drop them for any or no reason, and to bring them again if he wishes. Did you hear what I said?
Mm-hmm.
He can also convene a grand jury and for no reason at all, without any probable cause, bring people in of all walks of life on a fishing expedition so he can collect evidence that he otherwise would not have legal warrants to collect. And they will. They are doing so now. If we look away, if we allow them to do this under the cloak of secrecy, they're going to do what they did to Leonard Peltier. And if you want any more proof of what I am saying, how many of you can tell me all of the atrocities that the court, the legal system, the prosecutors, the FBI committed against Leonard Peltier? Well, I shouldn't say that to you. You are my faithful audience. And I bet a lot of you do know all of the atrocities, the crimes that were committed against Leonard Peltier, the way in which he was railroaded, the disgusting acts.
Mm-hmm.
They cut off a woman's hands,
Yep.
didn't they?
Yes, little polar bears. Yes, yes. There's terrible things they did. You know, they caused death to prosecute someone who was innocent, accused of murder, and the evidence has not been able to be in a courtroom since 1975 when the actual trial happened. There's been numerous attempts to have evidentiary hearings. No judge has let any evidence come in to exonerate Leonard Peltier. And it's been since 1975. I mean, it happened right here in Fargo. The court happened in Fargo. You know, I was in college at that time, and I met a sociologist who wrote a book about all the evidence that hadn't been presented in court. And the prosecutor is named Lynn Crooks. You know, the prosecutor had the name Crooks. And that guy was a crook. He's now retired. But there's been judges, even judges that exist today, that are in this federal courthouse over here in Fargo, have denied evidentiary hearings. And so there's been a call for clemency, a call for the president to, basically pardon him, because courts will not hear the evidence that would basically show that he's innocent. And he's not the only one. There's other political prisoners from AIM that have been in prison since that time. And it's impossible to get them out because courtrooms won't budge. So it's a people power that's got to move something. And now
from the Black Panthers.
Oh, yes. There's the Black Panthers, also, same story. It's the same story. And Red Fawn, same story's happening right now. Who's a sacrificial lamb of
this movement?
The water protectors. It's Red Fawn. She's been incarcerated for months now and moved around and sent to federal prison without charges at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then this grand jury.
She's already a political prisoner.
She's a political prisoner right now.
Right
she
now.
should be out of jail. And she hasn't been able to face her accusers at all.
No, it's happening again, guys. Are we going to let it happen on our watch while we sleep? Are we going to let it happen while we look away, while we silently allow this to happen? We have power we did not have before. Guess what we have now? We have social media.
Exactly.
We have our own platforms where we can share the crap out of this, even if the media, the corporate, sold out. Stay silent. That's as right. They have done on Standing Rock. We can be the media. In fact, we are the new media.
We are the new media.
Thank you for checking in, Charmaine from Vancouver. Hello, Rita from Sweden. Thank you, Nos from New Mexico.
All right.
I appreciate you guys very much. Roseanne says that her feed was interrupted several times, and it only happens during our show, and it doesn't happen with any other live feeds that she watches.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Alan Costa says when he emailed the White House today, he received a notice that he was going to get a letter from the White House about his concerns about the Morton County Sheriff's Department and how important it was for President Obama to free Leonard Peltier. Thank you, Alan.
All right.
I love you, Alan. Thank you for doing that. I really appreciate every single one of you who has sent an email, who has sent a letter, because Obama can free Leonard Peltier, and it's one thing that this Republican-led Congress can't take away.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that the new president can't take away. It will be amazing for the movement. It will be amazing for Indigenous people, Indigenous history. It will be a balm on people that have been hurt and oppressed in the most horrible of ways for generations, for hundreds of years, at a time when the Indigenous rights, when treaty rights, when sovereignty of Indigenous people is the most important topic of the world, of this history, of the history of the United States. This is the most important moment, Indigenous rights moment, in the history of Indigenous people, of all Indigenous people, what is happening right now at Standing Rock. And Obama could have a definitive legacy, a real legacy that no one can take from him. I talked about all of this yesterday. I'm not going to go over it again today.
That's right.
So go find it, because I really want you guys to do that. Florida's in the house. Hi, Sandy. I see you. I got Trish visiting here from Chatham, Ontario, Canada. Lots of people telling me lots of interruptions, lots of glitches. I hope you guys are filming this. I hope you guys are catching it. I want to also talk to you about bad actors in camp. Now, yesterday I talked to you about some of the things that were being said about direct actions. Going up on Turtle Hill, going to Backwater Bridge, all of the attacks. I want you to measure them. I want you to take everything with a grain of salt. I want you to think about it. Think critically about it. Let's talk about it. Let's analyze it. Where are these people coming from? Where is their heart? What are their motives? We do have to talk about bad actors, and there are bad actors inside of the camp. There are bad actors at Standing Rock. There are bad actors among the leadership. There are bad actors, and we need to identify bad actors, and we need to hold people accountable. I've been talking to a lot of my friends about this. I've been talking to Kevin about this, Kevin Gilbert. I've been talking to Dean about this, my buddy Dean from Drone to Be Wild. I've been talking to the people from the Indigenous Environmental Network. I've reached out to Chase. I've talked to a lot of people because people have questions, and rightfully so. We have a right to ask questions. So, what is the latest that we know? As it turns out, there has been a motion to keep $3.2 million
with the tribe, right? With Standing Rock, Standing Rock Sioux tribe.
Excuse me.
There was just a meeting to deal with the funding. You know, for a long time we were trying to tell people where to donate. You know, and early on people were, you know, wondering about what the best place to donate, and we did say a lot of times, you know, it'd be good just to donate directly to the Standing Rock tribe. You know.
We did.
And they did receive millions of dollars, you know, for the water protectors. It was for the water protectors.
But that was something that we said because that was also something that all of the leadership at the camp was saying as well.
Exactly. They were advising us to make sure that we would streamline the request for donations to places that would help the most, you know. And so we spent a lot of time doing that. And so having this information come up, was this meeting just held like today or yesterday?
Yes. So Waste Winyang says, and I will share this with you guys, what she posted. I put it on 88.1 Fargo-Moorhed, so you can go find it there as well.
Right.
The Standing Rock Sioux Tribe has just passed a resolution allowing them to use the No DAPL funds to pay off the tribe's debts instead of using them for camp. This is what's happening. Number 10, motion was made by Frank Whitebull, seconded by James Joe Dunn to approve. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Standing Rock Sioux Tribal Council shall hereby authorizes reallocation of up to $3.2 million from the No DAPL account on an as-needed basis and subject to Tribal Council approval to fund vital tribal government.
Wow.
Special Tribal Council meeting, inter-office follow-up. And it passed. Dave Archambault was one of those who voted for the, was present.
Actually, it says excused on
Oh,
the
so
vote.
does it? Okay, I'm sorry.
He was not there.
Oh, that's right.
Excused from voting.
He was excused from voting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Motion 11, or number 11, motion was made by Frank Whitebull, seconded by Cody Two Bears, to approve to create a non-profit organization along with necessary policies and procedures to administer DAPL funds and support endeavors beneficial to Standing Rock and Indian country. Interesting.
What does that mean?
It sounds to me like it's going to be really hard for them to take money that was given and intended for the camp and repurpose it for some other purpose that the people that gave it did not intend it for. I think that part of their legal argument will be that people donated it to the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe.
Yep.
And that people gave it to the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe with the intent of it being used for the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. And that the people in the leadership of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe would make the best decisions about what that was. But the spirit of what was done by the people, if you look at the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law exactly, what people gave the money for was specifically to support water protectors at the camp. And I believe that most people that gave money probably gave that money thinking that the people that were in leadership would best administer that as they saw the needs arise.
Mm-hmm.
So if the need arose for, more water to be brought in, or emergency services, or medical supplies, or housing, or
the porta potties. I mean,
porta potties or whatever.
The tribe was providing a lot of resources, especially last summer when I was there, and they have incurred costs, and that's one reason why we encourage people to donate to the tribe, because they were providing infrastructure. When North Dakota took away water tanks, it would not provide any services to people that were at the camps. The tribe stepped in and did that. So they did incur some costs, but this is not the way to do it. This looks like it's under a cloak. They should be upfront on the money that they have spent, and then that's what our people are asking. Those of you who have raised money for Standing Rock, for water protectors, be accountable to where that money has went. This isn't a fundraising free-for-all where people just make a bunch of money and keep it for themselves.
Although some people have acted that way.
Yeah, people have acted that way, and that happens in almost every situation. But people have been smart, and we have to stand for the water protectors. We have to continue to stand for the water protectors and stand for the water. I mean, that's this whole movement is about. And all movements try to get tripped up, especially when they're powerful, especially when they show strength, especially when they show some sort of results. And now there's attacks coming from all angles, not only ignoring what's going on and no truth getting out. Now the money pieces are basically attacking each other, and people are attacking each other. There's been a lot of operatives that have been part of this, but we've always felt that that's always part of it. We can root them out and get rid of them and make sure that the people are solid together. And that's solidarity is still there.
Okay, so let's talk about people. Let's name some names, and let's talk about some people. First, I want to share what Linda Black Elk posted. She's part of the Medic and Healer Council, somebody that I personally have followed and that I trust, somebody that has the right goals in mind for the camp, that has been there from the beginning, helping the people. She says, in my opinion, people should stop sending money to the tribe, the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. Okay? No offense, but people donated that money for the camp, and it isn't going toward the camp. That's wrong. I agree.
Yeah.
You know who is paying for housing, gas cards, firewood, snow removal, health care, and food for people in the camp? The Medic and Healer Council. If you want to donate to a fund that goes directly to camp, please go to medichealercouncil.com/donate. That's medichealingcouncil.com.
Oh, yeah.
medichealercouncil.com/donate. Okay, I'm going to put it in the comments section
Yeah.
so y'all can just find the link there because I'm not wording today very well.
Yeah. Some of these things are hard to read out loud.
Or you can also go donate directly to the legal fund, and there is a link for that, and I will post that along with the show as well as in the comments of the show, so you can find that right there. So another good place to donate is to the Last Real Indians. And since we are their fiscal agents, you can send those donations. You can continue to send those donations to us, and we will send them along to the Last Real Indians. There in camp, Chase Iron Eyes is a person I know personally. I know a lot of you have a lot of questions. Here's what I can tell you. I build relationships of trust with people I trust. This organization, the People's Press Project, this radio station, KPPP-LP, Fargo-Moorhed. This work that I do as a community organizer, that my husband and I do together, that my husband has been doing for 25 years, this is my life. This is our lives. This is what we have devoted our lives to. This is what we have worked our entire lives to reach this point. And I do not, I will not, I have done my very best not to involve people that I do not trust, that I cannot work with, who are not professional, or that are going to, in any way, shape, or form, jeopardize everything that I have done. You feel me? Chase Iron Eyes is a person I trust. Chase Iron Eyes is a person I personally know. Chase Iron Eyes is a person who is my friend. Chase Iron Eyes has a family. I know his family too. Chase Iron Eyes is a person I respect. He is a professional. He is an attorney. He is ethical. I have worked with him now for years. I have never been ashamed of anything that I have seen him do or that we have been involved in doing with him. So, what I can speak to is what I know. I can't speak to things I do not know. I can't tell you about every person at camp. I can't tell you who to trust. I know who I trust. Okay? And that's how I make my decisions. I know who I trust by building relationships. Some of them don't turn out good. Some of them don't turn out the way I thought they were going to turn out. And that can be disappointing. But listen, I didn't just fall off the turnip truck. I'm just telling you that I'm a pretty good judge of character, although I think I am. I'm also a paralegal. I've been trained in how to interrogate people, like literally. I have training on how to question people, how to interrogate people, how to find facts. how to make a legal argument, how to determine if someone is telling me the truth and how to find it, how to research, okay? How to think critically. So I've gone through the work of getting to know the people that I have built my relationships and my media ties and my friendships to at the camp, at Standing Rock, um, through my experience, through my friendships, through that research, through that networking, through that work. And all I can tell you is that I trust these people that I know. You don't have to trust them. You go figure that out yourself. I could tell you the best thing you want to know, because you guys keep asking me, who should we trust? Who should we give our money to? Where do we donate? How do we help the cause? Because I know, I understand. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of people talking badly about what's happening at the camp. And you guys are confused. You're upset. You're worried for the cause. You're worried for the movement. I get that. I understand that. But let's break this down. No nos vamos a ahogar en un vaso de agua. Okay? We're not going to drown in a glass of water. It's just a glass of water. It's okay, guys. It's going to be okay. So let's break this down. First and foremost, what do you think is going to happen on an Indian reservation that has been, if not the poorest Indian reservation in the country, close to the poorest, and has always remained one of the poorest Indian reservations in the country? The poorest people in the country, equal and or worse to third world countries' income, health, life expectancy. What do you expect when you take the people who have, by design, by force, by genocidal edict of this country, of this government, been placed in the worst conditions, in the worst places, and left in abject poverty with no resources and no support? What do you suppose is going to happen when you walk in there and throw a bunch of money at those people? When there's no basis, no foundation over time to give resources and support to these communities, to indigenous people, in such a way that we build in their communities infrastructure, and that we build in their communities self-governance, that we as a government don't walk in and mess with every time it suits us because we found gold or oil on their land. Or because we want to walk into their community and dump fracking fluids at night, or because we want to go in there and rape or traffic their women and children. What do you suppose is going to happen in a community that we have built corruption, crime, illness, and addiction into, where we literally put a company that sells beer in massive amounts next to towns filled with people addicted to alcohol? What do you suppose is going to happen when you take a system and a place that we Americans, colonizers, settlers, call yourselves what you will, have done this to indigenous people. And then we also want to blame them for grabbing at money, for desperately trying to take a piece of something and hold onto it to give their children something to eat, a roof over their head, anything. Listen, I'm upset that there are people taking advantage of the situation, that there are people stealing people's items, property, money. I'm upset that there are people that are carpetbaggers that are coming in trying to take advantage of what is happening at Standing Rock Sioux tribes to their leadership so that they can turn a quick buck, so that they can make a name for themselves. That makes me mad. That upsets me. As an indigenous person, watching people appropriate and steal from us is something that gets very tiresome. But I'll tell you something else. This is the world that we created for indigenous people. Will we now blame them for trying to survive it? Are you going to blame someone who spent their entire life in addiction and poverty for stealing something to eat? And I'm not saying that some of these people that have gone in there opportunistic to steal or to take property were doing it because they were starving. But when you put a bunch of rats in a cage and throw them a crumb, they're going to fight for that crumb. This is the kind of situation the Standing Rock Sioux people have been in. It is ripe. It is rife with corruption, with poverty. So let's clean house. We're looking at it. Let's look at it. Let's just open our eyes, and instead of saying, oh, well, screw those Indians. Look at them. They're all messed up. See, they can't even help themselves, and just leave them. We have to look at the situation. We have to look at the indigenous people, not just of Standing Rock, but from everywhere, and be amazed at their resilience, at their ability, at our ability to survive, living in the most horrible of conditions, and to have conviction, to fight for our mother, to fight for our water when no one else will. That's amazing in and of themselves. They need nothing more to amaze us than to be those people who will fight to the death if necessary for what they believe in, for who they are. And that is something that we all have to keep supporting. And if you, as someone who has been watching what is happening at Standing Rock, someone who cares, someone who considers yourself a water protector, someone who considers yourself an ally, if you're willing to turn your back on the people of Standing Rock, their allies, and the water, and that land, because, oh, you found an excuse to hate the Indians, or you found an excuse to hate their leadership, I don't think you were really with them. You know, we're not recruiting for a cool club or Mickey Mouse Club here. This is about the water. This is about indigenous sovereignty. Indigenous people are human too. We're all human beings. There are flaws and there are problems, chiefly among those who have been put in the most oppression, which is indigenous people. So, I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Are you? I think that we need to look at this with very cold, calculated minds, okay? Somebody's been talking smack about my buddy Kevin Gilbert. I see you out there talking smack about Kevin. Now, just because Kevin is white, it doesn't mean Kevin went in there as an opportunistic thief to try to get a bunch of money for himself and go off with it. I've seen all... Listen, if you're going to say stuff, if you're going to go on social media, if you're going to talk smack about people and say that they're misappropriating money, you better come with some proof. You better come with some evidence. Don't just talk about it. Show me receipts. Where is the receipts? Because I know Kevin personally. I've talked to Kevin. And that's not what he is about. I know what he is doing, and he is doing right by the people of Standing Rock. Do you know that even though the legal fund for the water protectors is not covering all of the costs water protectors have, and by the way, you need to go and put some more money in the water protectors legal fund to help them. But those folks who are not able to meet all of their needs, angels like Kevin Gilbert are the ones that are ponying up the money to help them. And, you know, it only adds insult to injury when people who don't know, who are just running their mouths, are talking about him in that way while he is trying to help people like you. So if you don't have evidence, please stop spreading hate. Stop spreading lies. And now I just want you to think about one more thing, okay? I just want you to think about one more thing. Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. We're talking about their leadership, and I know a lot of you want answers. I want answers too. I think everything should be transparent. I think we should call this stuff out. I think we should say if somebody's done something wrong and hold them accountable. It doesn't matter if it's a tribal chairman. It doesn't matter if it's Morton County. It doesn't matter who it is. We need to be the same kind of people who come with clean hands to demand justice. We have to demand the same thing from the other side as well. Even if we know that the system is stacked against us, we know we have to still demand justice on our side. So here's what I want you to think about. Standing Rock is fighting several legal battles in federal court based on their treaty rights, based on the crimes committed against water protectors on tribal lands, abuses, based on desecration of their sacred burial sites and burial grounds. You know how much that costs? That is a lot of money. I would say that $3.2 million might not even be enough to cover it.
Nope.
I would say, I don't know what Dave Archambault is going to use that money for. And I understand the people that sent the money to the camp wanted it for the camp. And right now, as people are freezing and needing food and needing gas and propane and transportation money, etc., because there is such a great need, there's a lot of anger, frustration, where people are saying, hey, we need composting toilets over here. We need food over here. We need wood over here. And Dave Archambault is worried about the legal battle? Well, hey, folks, didn't we say the next frontier is the legal battle? I mean, we need to calm down and we need to think about what it is that we're fighting for and who it is we're fighting against, okay? I'm not saying that we don't need to hold anybody accountable. I do want to know what's going on with that money and what it was spent for. And I think it should be spent for people at the camp if that's what people allocated that money for. And I believe that we all have a right to question it and that we should get to see where the money was allocated and that we get to demand accountability from those who did it and say, why'd you make that decision? We would like to know. I want to do that. I hope that we all do that. I hope that we hold these people accountable. But at the same time, I want to ask you, what is the main goal again? Do you guys remember what the main goal is? What's the main goal, Duke? Tell them.
To protect the water.
That's right.
Vinny Wachoni.
We're here because we're trying to protect the water. That is the main point of all of this. And that fight is going to happen on a lot of different fronts. So what Tell you what happened. It was flickering for a long time. Hopefully, folks are finding out that jumping on this new one. So we'll give them a little minute. We'll give them a second here to jump back on. But I do want to tell you, I need you guys to build my audience back up again and share this out and get our audience going on the on this live feed. We already have 10 people that jumped on. Start sharing it, guys.
Yeah.
Start sharing it. Start documenting what's going on. It's really crazy how the comments just stopped scrolling. And I had people commenting a lot. And then all of a sudden the comments stopped scrolling. And you know at the top it says live? Watch this. You see that? It says live and it shows us the number of people that are on the live feed. The number of people that are on the live feed in that little eye thing that's on there, that disappeared. I couldn't see how many people were watching the live feed, and you know what? I think they tinker with it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that they do is they interrupt the live feed, or they interrupt the show. They have all this flickering and they have buffering, so you get bored. So one of the things that you should do is refresh it. You can also leave the, minimize it and then maximize it. You can also restart your shut down the Facebook, restart it, go back to the feed, and then find it again. But this is what happened when I was looking at the show on the screen. At the very top where it says live, the live still was going and it looked like it was still broadcasting, but I couldn't see any people.
Wow.
And all of the comments just disappeared. People are telling me that our broadcast erupt. Dave Campbell, who's now going to be paying off debts for the tribe and blah 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 blah. So I want to say two things about this. One thing I want to say about this is number one, I've already spoken on my last show. If you missed it, go back and watch part 1 of this show. Um, wow, people are having a really hard time on the live feed. And you know what? I noticed that my numbers can't seem to jump up. I had 100 people, hundreds of people watching earlier on the last live feed. And now, for some reason, we can't get more than 39. Isn't that weird? Isn't that strange? Same people were trying to watch a minute ago. And I know you guys are out there. I know you guys are sharing. Also, you should videotape, live stream my live stream. Live stream that live stream on your live stream, right? Like Alice in Wonderland. We'll do like the mirrors. Okay, so here's the things that I want you to know from my last video that I just did. The most important thing that I said to you about what's going on is that people that have been generationally and traditionally oppressed, abused, and given no resources shouldn't be thrown under the bus the minute that we find corruption, or we find illness, that we find disease, that we find people abusing each other, that we find people addicted, that we find people that have been oppressed living the comorbidities of that oppression. When you put people in an environment where you generationally take their children, rape and abuse those people, murder them, put them in mental institutions, kill them at a greater rate than any other people by law enforcement, impoverish them to the point where they don't have enough to eat, living in squalor with very poor housing. You put them in the conditions where they will suffer poverty, addiction, let's support someone that we trust. Part of the problem, part of the reason that many of you don't know who to send your money to and who to give your money to and who to support at Standing Rock is because you haven't gone there. because you don't know how, but I'm going to try anyhow. And they got a bunch of money because you don't know what's going on, because you don't know enough about indigenous tribes, because you don't know enough about Standing Rock, because you don't know the people there, and because you don't know what's going on. That situation is rife for corruption. It's rife for mistakes. It's rife for abuses. It's ready. It's ready to go. So that's what is happening. That's why it's happening. Because the ability for people to do that the environment has been created. And so that is gonna take place. What we need to do is learn how to manage those situations, correct them, and then move on. What is our goal? Protecting the water, and right now, protecting the water protectors. All of the people that have committed themselves to this cause continue to need our support. So, ask people that you trust who to give the money to. Give it to them and have them administer it in the best way that they see fit. I don't have any problem with those people that gave money to Kevin, because I've seen how he's used that money and who he's given it to. Most of it he has not used on himself other than to buy supplies and equipment that he needed to survive. And listen, this guy and the people that I trust because I have a personal relationship to them. If you don't have a personal relationship to these folks, build some. And if you don't have the time or the inclination to do that, then you're going to have to start trusting the people that already do have those relationships and help them to help the people that you want to be helped at Standing Rock. I want you guys to know Kevin Gilbert and Miko Hayes are going to be, and probably already have, as I am speaking to you, released some information about what we're talking about today, about bad actors, about accountability, about what is happening at camp. You will be hearing more about this. Not because we want to bring down Standing Rock, not because we want to sow dissent, not because non-Indigenous people or white people like Kevin Gilbert are going to talk down to Native people, not because we want to bring confusion to Standing Rock, not because we want to freeze donations to people at Standing Rock, not for any of those reasons, simply because we want to share the truth and we want justice to prevail. We want people that have done wrong to be held accountable, and we want the people that have been harmed to be made as whole as possible. That's it. That's all. And so we're going to have to talk about these things. And I know I've already seen, especially among my Indigenous brothers and sisters out there, that when people start to bring this up, especially if it's white folks, y'all get mad at them and you start saying, oh, here these white folks are coming and they're talking about us and they're saying that is misplaced right now. I know that some of that is very well placed anger and mistrust, because Indigenous people have been misrepresented, have been maligned, have been lied about by white folks because they don't understand them, because they don't understand their traditions, because they don't understand how Indigenous people see the world, how we think. So I understand where you're coming from, but let us not be so insular in protecting Standing Rock and in protecting the dignity or the rights of Indigenous people that we're not willing to call out bad actors, people that are taking advantage of the situation, people that are stealing, people that are kidnapping people, people that are throwing people out. And even more important than that, I don't want folks to forget that we have a lot of different ways in which to fight against this black snake. Right? There's the divestment movement. You need to support the legal defense fund. There is the federal claims against the federal government and the Army Corps of Engineers. There is the next administration that we're going to have to continue to fight against because they're going to want to fast track this and other pipelines. But as we start to look at this situation, Sheila is telling me that she's going to have to wait until the end of this broadcast. And there's it seems to be like the comments seem to have stopped.
I can tell you, I've been doing some testing. I've been quiet for a little bit here.
Yeah.
And I believe our IP address that our phone is connected to through our Wi-Fi, as well as our computers, is getting hit with pings. That's a denial of service style, because our
so it's being attacked
right now. We've had almost no upload ability through our internet, and it's not our internal routers. It's something exterior to us, and that is something that happened that we talked with Josh about. Is that every internet connection has an IP address, and if you just start hitting that IP address with requests for information, they call it a denial of service, that IP address will get saturated and won't be able to be used very well, and that's happening in this program. So if you can hear us right now on the live feed, it's great. We are recording this to air at 7 o'clock. An hour from now, we'll put this on the air, and we're going to. If you're watching the live stream right now, we'll probably cut this broadcast a little bit short so we have time to download things and shore up some things. And right now, the pings are kind of coming in. We're we're losing packets, as they say. So that's when it sticks.
The hackers are attacking us. The trolls are trying to take us down.
Yep.
You know, I don't know why you haters gotta hate so hard on the live feed, because you're not gonna stop my broadcast. Silly rabbit. These hacks are, I know, you're hurting the audience in the Facebook world and in these live feeds. You're hurting them because you're not allowing them to watch a show that they like without being interrupted, and trying to glitch them out so that they get bored and they just go to something else, because people don't have the attention span to sit there and watch while this thing flickers and flickers and messes with them. But they don't was watching the show, and I believe that majority of the people that watch my show are genuine fans. But when they have problems, they merely come back. Many of them are watching because they're trying to document this. They're trying to document this censorship. Many of them are citizen journalists too. You're not going to stop us. And besides the fact, all of these people on the internet can go and share the podcast of the show. They can listen to it later. They can share the link to it. We're going to share all of it. The only thing you guys are helping me do is create a greater need. Don't you know how capitalism works, you idiots?
Yeah.
It works by demand and supply. If you make the demand for my show greater as you try to block it and make people want to see it more and make them frustrated because they all want to see it and you keep stopping them, you will create a greater demand for my show by limiting its morons. Do they not know how this stuff works?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what you have done, you idiots? You have helped me to grow my audience around the world exponentially as you have tried to block me. Thank you. Thank you for doing that work for me, trolls. Oh my God. And you know, it's funny because a lot of people have asked me, they're like, Cindy, doesn't this bother you that they're trying to attack you? And how do you do it? How do you deal with this? I've had people create white nationalists threaten me. This isn't my first go around in the spinning of the media, okay? I've been the editor of a newspaper. I've had a lot of criticism thrown my way. I've had more than my share of angry emails and calls. I've been called a lot of names. But you know what? I'll tell you, fear all of this hate. If you're going to be in the spotlight of the media, if you're going to talk publicly, and if you're going to tell the truth like I like to do, you're going to get a lot of hate mail. In fact, I don't feel like I'm doing my job right unless there's some angry person that came unhoused because of something I told them. Folks, you need to hear the truth, and you need to hear it from someone who knows how to tell it like it is. And I'm not going to stop. So if you trolls want to help keep building my audience, you keep right on going. You're going to make me, I don't know how big